Hi, I'm Chris Lewis. I'm a director in our advisory practice running the consultancy and office agency teams. We have seen a number of big deals over the last year, and those generally have resulted in moves to newer stock, be it brand new buildings or buildings that have been reimagined, recreated to offer something a little bit different. Ultimately, targeting this newer stock and this newer product is because they're looking to do something slightly differently operationally. They're looking to reach out to a different kind of talent pool, and for them, retention of talent, efficiency, optionality around their real estate is really, really important. And it's very, very difficult to achieve that from second-hand and tertiary space, which perhaps is not as flexible and not as reliable and not, frankly, capable of doing some of this transformational stuff that businesses are looking to achieve. So in terms of sectors who are out there, we are continuing to see the very traditional movers and shakers, if you like. So financial services continues to dominate. But actually, when you start to lift the lid on the other sectors, many of them are traditional, but they have elements of new and innovation, if you like, to them. And so financial services, for example, increasingly is morphing into technology, and that itself is known as fintech, which ultimately is a technology platform or platforms that are supporting the financial services sector. And similarly, we're seeing that with insurance as well, with insurtech having a similar impact. So we're seeing technology principally as being the driver of change across traditional sectors, but that doesn't go to the kind of detriment of those traditional sectors. It actually goes to just increase the overall activity. So the tenants and clients that we're working with probably represent the range of occupiers who are out there in the London market currently. And in those conversations with them, it's interesting to hear that the breadth of driver in terms of what's influencing their key decisions around choices that they're making. But principally, the number one issue is around how the real estate they occupy acts and behaves, whether that's in relation to their talent proposition, how they attract, how they retain, how it presents them to clients, how it presents them against their peer group, but ultimately how it makes the business perform. And often we're seeing a slight mismatch between what the market is delivering and what occupiers are wanting to see. And so increasingly, for example, we're seeing either a core and flex model evolving and developing with clients where they have perhaps a long-term commitment, and by long-term I mean 10-year plus of office space, coupled with perhaps some flexible space. And we are quite frequently now going out with clients to look at both conventional and flexible space. And that flexible space is appealing to businesses because they just can't find that level of flexibility from traditional landlords in the market. In terms of the geographical restraints or constraints that perhaps traditionally businesses might have had, it's fair to say that people now, when they're looking at their property, do so on a much broader basis when it comes to geography. Whilst not everyone is going to consider the entire central London, many now will consider districts, whereas previously they could have been a one district tenant. Equally, they can look at locations that provide different types of outcome. And that outcome could be delivered by proximity to infrastructure. It could be delivered by the amenity in those local areas. It could be to do with the way that an area is being reimagined, recreated, regenerated, and they want to be a player in that whole kind of process. But for the first time in my career, I've really seen the central London tenant emerging, and those parties who are prepared at least to look across London as they start their searches. So increasingly we're seeing the serviced and flexible market becoming more and more important in decision-making processes that our clients are going through. And interestingly, whereas 5 years ago perhaps service was only really the domain of startups or businesses who didn't, for whatever reason, particularly want to have a long-term footprint, we're now seeing it being deployed as a kind of tactical part of a real estate portfolio for corporates and small businesses alike. And as we look forward to next year, I think increasingly we're going to see the kind of emergence of the hybrid offer, which isn't quite conventional, it's not quite service, but it's somewhere in between. And that's really in direct response to the lack of flexibility and innovation that's coming out of the traditional landlords who continue to offer what you would describe as institutional terms on their very best space. And so the question for businesses is, well, why should we accept that? Why should we have to take a long-term lease? Why can't we have flexibility? And so there are operators now emerging who are looking to plug that gap. and kind of bridge the point between conventional and serviced. And I think that's a really interesting trend to look out for across next year, and it's something that I'm sure that we're going to be advising our clients. As a business, I think we're pretty uniquely positioned. We have probably one of the best in the market serviced office advisory practices, alongside one of the most active tenant-only representation teams, meaning that when we pull those two resources together, we're able to give clients visibility of all parts of the market, be it conventional, serviced, or the flexible space in between. Working with us, I think you get the best visibility, the best support and service that you could possibly hope to get in the London market today.